totally against Drag Queen Story Hour. Not the drag queens, just the reading part. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on. The choice was going to mandate you. Get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. Excited to have Moshe Kasher back in studio with his very interesting life tale now put in the form of a book.
I'm glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. I was reading about you and your life and your past and the trials and the tribulations, and now it's all captured.
Well, I think we discussed all the tribulations last time I was on. It was a very tribulation-heavy conversation.
It was tribulation-centric,
yeah,
but we didn't get to the trials.
No, well, there were actually trials. There was a trial once when my mother put me in this youth diversion program. She put me to this youth court in Oakland for biting her. And I got sentenced to community service for biting my mother. And I remember going to the community service.
How old were you?
I probably was 14 at that point. And I was very nervous to have to confront the other fellas in the yard, because they would go around and be like, what are you in for? Grand Theft Auto? What about you? Robbed a liquor store? What about you, white boy? Bit my mama.
Bit my mom.
You better watch out. I'll bite you too.
Let me ask you. I feel, when you're in the yard,
sure,
and you're dealing with felons, cop killers pretty high up there.
Yeah, that gets a lot of respect.
Molested a retarded kid is down.
I would say yes, that gets less respect.
Biting mom might put you up, because this cat'll do anything.
Oh, so you're saying, in a way, I inspired fear in the heart of cop killers.
I'm saying there's certain crimes that fall under the heading of crazy.
Sure.
Like if you go, what are you in for? Aggravated assault. Who'd you beat up? Myself.
Yeah.
That'd be like, I'd go like, okay, don't fuck with this guy.
Yeah, that's
you're in for arson. Whose house did you set on fire? My room.
Yeah,
that would make me go, oh, this guy's fucking nuts.
Right, and biters probably have to wear a muzzle.
You get one of those spit masks. And stuff. I think those are a more modern invention. I think people have started spitting on people more in the contemporary day than they did when I was young.
I'm saddened to say that along with the barbed wire around the freeway signs and the spit muzzle, these aren't inventions of yore. These are testimonies to the modern society that we've devolved into.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a deep metaphor for our current society.
Yeah, like in the 30s, fire stations didn't have a plaque in front that said, don't throw your kid in a dumpster, drop them off here.
Yeah, but in the 30s, the kid was working at like a shoe shine factory for 4 cents an hour in indentured servitude. Things have gotten better and worse, I guess.
I just the fact that we have to make the statement, do not drop kick your kid into a river. You can bring him by the firehouse. We got a Dalmatian and some chili.
You know what's cool about it, though, is I don't know if you've ever seen the other side of one of the Drop Your Baby Here, but it's a really cool slide.
It's like a water slide.
It's really nice. It's fun for the kids, honestly.
Put your kid in a drawer, like you're depositing in a bank. Maybe it goes into one of those old timey bank vacuum chute things, or like, whoop.
Or maybe it goes into one of the like a hamster wheel with a water tube and a feeding tube, and then they're raised in there, and then they become firefighters. And firefighters are heroes, and I don't want to hear anything different.
Firefighter is like cop minus with no baggage.
Yeah, 100%.
No baggage.
Yeah,
and it's got to be probably the number one. We all know, like in terms of getting laid.
Yes.
And I'm going to circle back. I just want
to
curious.
Effeminate stand-up comedian, firefighter.
Right.
Masculine stand-up comedian.
Fighter pilot,
cop.
That's right. No, a sensitive question.
Yeah.
Your mom's deaf, right?
Yeah.
When you bite a deaf woman.
I knew you were going to go there, and I'm glad you're finally.
The sound that comes out. Yeah. Would that be different than me biting my mom?
That's a great question.
Who's able-bodied.
And who I've bitten, actually.
Well, what sound? And you can compare and contrast.
I bit both mamas, and so I can. Does a deaf scream sound different than a hearing scream? Is essentially the kernel of the question. And I guess the answer is yes. It does sound. It does sound a little bit different. I mean, the whole process of making sound is you take it in when you're a baby, and then you start to repeat it, and you start to so the sound that deaf people make is not based on something that they have heard, but there are certain like sounds that are innate to humans, right? Laughter and screaming. These are innate sounds to the human, but I would say that it's maybe 10% different than a hearing scream. Right. I know I can feel you wanting me to do the scream. I can feel that coming. Waiting. That energy is coming off of you.
It's not me, it's the audience.
They're writing in right now, right?
That's right.
We don't even film live, and somehow they're writing in, asking me to do
in.
I mean, you might get a kind of a vague kind of a. So it sounds sort of it's screamish.
And then what would my mom sound like, or what did my mom sound like?
She said, "Do you know Adam? He's a comedian too."
Yeah. Like my mom knows.
I would assume it's different because aren't all of her other senses heightened? So she would actually feel the bite a lot more, Moshe's mom.
Sense of touch.
Oh, you think it hurts more when you bite a deaf person?
Yeah.
She's not Daredevil, dude.
She feels it more. She probably knows she didn't floss that day. It's very sensitive.
Well, I'll tell you this. As a youth that was in lots of trouble and loved to drink and get high, my mother, there were advantages and disadvantages. Sneaking out of the house, I wouldn't even call it sneaking. It was just leaving. We would just leave. We would put a boombox on and break dance down the stairs. My mom would be
could
none the
not hear
wiser.
you creeping out of the house.
Not at all. But in terms of when you used to drink and then you'd put some Halls in your mouth or Sen if you are from the 30s, right? My mother, it was Daredevil-like. My mom it would be like, she would be doing like anthropology of the scent. She'd be like, I'm smelling a lemon ginger Halls, and underneath there's a top note of malt liquor. There's a 40 amps in there, and definitely gin and juice.
Yeah, I never thought about that because women, even ones that are not deaf, have a very heightened sense of smell.
Is that true?
I have found women will walk in a room and make like an announcement.
Oh, interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, the last people stayed at this hotel definitely smoked in this room, or something's musty. There's a lot of, they're scent-centric. And they do it. It's probably built into them for some sort of survival thing.
Right. Like I wonder what the evolutionary.
They had to know if the meat was spoiled or not,
right.
so the kid wouldn't get poisoned or something. But every woman I've ever been around will walk into the room and make some sort of announcement.
Yeah.
Will also do stuff like, they'll go like, I'll go, where's my bathrobe? It's in the washing machine. I'll go, why? Oh my God, it smelled like me. And it's a bathrobe. It's a bathrobe. I'm not going to the Kentucky Derby in it. I'm not going to offend anybody. It's a bathrobe. I want it to smell like me. But it's like, oh, no. And there's accusatory smells, too. They know the drinking. They know the smoking smell. Sure. They know the other woman's perfume smell. Yeah, they know the smell. Yeah. I think they can smell fear as well.
I think that's what the primary things when they start smelling the accusatory smells, then they smell an undernote, a bouquet of fear begins to bloom.
Because they started the smelling process and then the guilt kicks in. So your mom's smell, you couldn't go to the yard and blow a doobie and then like come back into the house.
She would smell everything. If I smoked a blunt, she would smell, I smell a Philly wrapper and I smell indica. That smells like indica. Is that what that is? So I got away with nothing and everything.
Right.
And the trials and tribulations led me to kind of getting sober incredibly young, which is like the book is essentially my journey through the 6 subcultures that have created my life. And the first one in there is the 12 steps, young people's AA and rehab. And that's sort of where I started this kind of journey of life, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I'm envious of guys like you and Bobcat and Greg Fitzsimmons and others who just had such a problem in their teens that they hung it up that early and now have put together decades of sobriety.
Well, it has advantage. It's just like the deafness. It has its advantages and disadvantages. I definitely had this experience of being a teenager and being having like sort of jetpacked out of the insanity and chaos of my young life. But I also was this kid that was like trying desperately to figure out like how to have a good time and how to not like be judged by other kids and like how to figure out my journey in the universe. And that was what kind of led me to the next thing, which is when I started going to raves when I was 16, clean and sober going to raves, eventually became a DJ and a promoter and an ecstasy dealer. I'm one of the world's only clean and sober ecstasy dealers.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't do it to this day. I make my living more through comedy than selling ecstasy.
Yeah. By the way, sober to rave just sounds like the most annoying night of anyone's life.
Listen,
to me.
Adam, I don't know you that well, but I'm gonna go ahead and swing and say you weren't a big raver in the 90s.
No, not big. Medium.
Did you go to some?
Never been. No, I
Low medium.
I looked at raves like like people go like, "Hey, ever had your girlfriend put a strap on and peg you from behind?" I'd go, "No," and then they'd go, "Well, maybe," and I'd go, "No."
Don't need to try it.
Yeah, I kind of know that's not my thing.
Sure,
I felt that way about raves. The music
with a rave,
in
they
general.
strap on a glow stick.
Oh, and they
peg you with
with a glow stick.
On your
I
first
could handle a glow stick.
Sure, that's a nice
Yeah,
pegging
I
right
prefer
there.
the glow
But
stick.
they do have a hook at the end, and that's what you don't want.
Oh, the hook.
Take it
That's
from me,
right.
guys. What you don't want during a pegging is a hook at the end.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want a nice, clean, sort of progressive missile in there, but not a hook, because they could grab your prostate and end up
Yep.
taking it with them to the bathroom.
Yeah, and then you have to wear it as an amulet around your neck from that point on.
Raves to me felt like people that needed too much stimulation, I think.
I can see that.
And I've always felt like people, like there's a lot of people go like, we're going to do mushrooms, we're going to do some acid, then we're going to Disneyland, we're going on the Matterhorn. And I'd be like, well, going on the Matterhorn is its own thing.
It in a way is a mushroom.
Yeah, like the people go like, oh man, my woman, she pops an Altoid in and then gives me a blowjob, and I'm like, or you could just take the blowjob, because that feels like enough.
Because I've always felt like a blowjob is insufficient and that mint is the only way to improve the experience. I'm looking for mint.
Even if she just puts a sprig of mint, between her gums and cheeks.
Sure. Well, they say when they do that, your orgasm is curiously strong. Guys, it's been great to be here.
Yeah. Drop that mic on the floor.
I should say I should get the name of the book out there. Subculture Vulture, a memoir in 6 scenes, and it'll be available tomorrow as you hear this.
Yeah.
So-
What's cool about the book is that I'm very proud of this book because each of the scenes is memoir, but it's also history. It's like comedic history. So we start literally at the beginning of all of these subcultures and scenes. I go through the history of Alcoholics Anonymous and the Raves scene, Burning Man, which I worked at Burning Man for 15 years, and last year was my 24th time. You want to talk about overstimulated? I've been to Burning Man 24 times. Hasidic Judaism and American Sign Language and sign language interpreting, and then the world that brings us together is stand-up comedy. And I do like a little history of each of those things, and then talk about my years in them.
What's Burning Man like, especially sober?
See, I always get these questions, what's X like sober? But and the same thing, people say, what's it like having deaf parents? And it's the same answer, which is, I don't know anything else. I've only been there sober. So it's exactly what you're describing, though. I've never been at Burning Man watching a woman on fire fall from a 2-story silk acrobatic performance in a deer antler that looks like the QAnon shaman, and then stop herself 2 inches from hitting the floor and then spit out a plume of propane-addled fire and gone, mushrooms would make this a trip. Like,
Right.
it always feels like I'm pretty high there already.
Right. What is the clientele of Burning Man? Like, how has it changed from the old days till now? Is it corporate now?
Well, the best quote I've heard about that is that Burning Man used to be a place where weird people came to feel normal, and it's slowly become a place where normal people come to feel weird. And I think that's a really good summation. When I went for the first time in '96, I was 16 years old.
Oh, my God.
And I just heard there was a rave in the desert, and that was like enough for me to pack up a car and drive 6 hours into the desert. And it was... When I got there, I got out of the car and I was like, I don't know what this is, but it is not a rave. It is like Mad Max meets a hippie festival, meets a rave, meets a lot of DMT, meets violence, fire. There were drive-by shooting ranges and drag queen nuns, and they were setting buildings on fire. People died.
Drive-by shooting ranges.
There would be like targets, and people would be driving in their car and shooting.
You could do a drive-by.
Yeah, well, because it has this libertarian, I would say it's maybe shrinking, but it had this libertarian bent to it too. You know, in the old days, libertarianism and art, like punk art, were kind of mixed up together.
Yeah.
And so it was dangerous and crazy. And then now it's still the wildest thing I do all year, but it's a lot softer. There's a lot more edges and rules around it because people have died over the years and people have caught themselves on fire running into the man, and they've done every bad thing that could have happened has happened, and they have made rules to try to mitigate that. So it's less wild and it's less extreme, but it's still, I think, the most fun I have all year.
And how many days are you there for?
Well, I used to go when I worked there. I would go for upwards of a month. I would go out there before the city was even built.
You're a guard, right?
I worked at a department called the Gate, and what we did at the Gate was we would search every vehicle that was coming in, and it was a lot of fun because the people at the Gate were the kind of like punk rock clowns of the event, of the staff, and we would have like a lot of fun. We would, people would. Vehicles wouldn't be allowed to come in, and we would take their little go-karts and ride them around, or our job was to find stowaways, basically.
Like the border.
Should have had your mom out there sniffing it out.
That's so right.
She wouldn't have to take the trunk lid off. She'd just be like,
yep.
Oh, yeah.
We could smell the hippies. You don't need superhuman smell to be able to smell the hippies.
Well, contraband.
Sure. Actually, speaking of the border, there was one of the craziest stories that ever happened up at the Gate was a guy came in. We had been informed that this vehicle matching this description had stowaways in it. And he pulls up and he's like smiling dude. He's like, hey, how you doing? Super calm. And we start to search the vehicle because we had been told there's people in this vehicle. He's picking up people on the side of the road. And we searched for hours.
What kind of car?
It was like a big kind of cargo van-y kind of thing. And it's filled with stuff. And we searched for hours. And nothing. Couldn't find it. Didn't find it. And nothing. He's smiling, cool as a cucumber, this guy. And finally, we couldn't just let him go because we'd said this vehicle has the people. And 3 hours into the search, somebody put their hand into like a crevice and found a latch and pulled the latch, and this whole like almost Disney-like artifice of like a set popped open, and there was a chamber with all these shivering, scared ravers and hippies inside. Wow. And we go, what the fuck? And then we found the guys, and the guy's like, oh yeah, cool, like super cool. And we go, how are you so calm right now? Like we just busted you. And the guy's like, this is nothing. I'm a coyote at the border. Wow. That's what I use this vehicle for. Normally it's a federal offense. I just was trying to make some extra money getting these hippies into this festival.
Coyote.
He was a real coyote that was just like moonlighting as a rave smuggler.
Well, if you go to the pros. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Although we were the real pros because we caught him. It worked.
Yeah. Well, you had intel.
Yeah, you were tipped.
I remember there was another time this guy shows up. He had it was almost an armored car looking thing. And it was very official looking. And he had cameras affixed to all these different areas on the vehicle. And he shows up and he goes, hi, I'm with the federal marshals. And I have a chain of custody. I need to deliver a warrant to someone inside of the event. Chain of custody. He keeps saying the words chain of custody. And I go, I don't know what that. Okay, do you have a ticket? He's like, no, but chain of custody. You understand that? He starts showing us paperwork. So I called my supervisors up, and I'm like, this guy keeps saying chain of custody. He's a marshal. And they're like, these are just burnouts like me. These aren't like, my supervisors aren't like crack agents. They're like just other Burning Man people. Like, I think we need to let him in. And I go, well, can we search the vehicle? He's like, oh no, I can't open the back chamber. Chain of custody. It's a federal offense. You guys are FBI, chain of custody, CIA. And I go, I'm sorry, like. My bosses go, let him in. I go, I don't think you can just show up to Burning Man and say the words chain of custody and just get in. I don't think it works like that.
Right.
And they let me send him away. I go, sorry, dude, like no can do. Like you got to go. And he goes, chain of custody. The Justice Department's on its way. And he turns around and drives off. And about 10 minutes later, I was in a truck going up to the highway to go run an errand, and I see my agent on the side of the road, the back chamber totally open, this like Cirque du Soleil looking woman climbing out. There's pots and pans and like a bedroll and shit. And I'm like, this guy, it looked so official, but clearly this guy was just some guy in Reno who had like some meth, a TIG welder, and a plan, and told this beautiful woman, I can definitely get us into Burning Man.
How much did it cost to get into Burning Man that people would go to these extreme measures?
Well, at the beginning, it didn't used to sell out. You used to be able to buy tickets at the
You
event.
could get them.
So that was fun. We had like a game that we would play. If we would stick our hand into a couch and we'd feel a hippie arm, and we'd sort of yank the guy out and he'd be in there all folded up,
Right.
We'd go, if he was cool, if he goes, "Oh, brother, you caught me.
Right.
Like, I'm so sorry, I'm an idiot." Then we would just sell him a ticket at face value and send him in. But if
Right.
he was an asshole, if he was like, "I don't know why you guys are charging in the first place, freedom, brother,"
right,
then we would
right.
start to assess an asshole tax. And the asshole tax would be commensurate to how big of an asshole the guy was. And
Yeah.
eventually it would be, 2,000, whatever the guy would pay. And then the event started to sell out. I think that was in like 2010. I think it started selling out. And then the work became a lot less fun. It became like being a cop. It just
Yeah.
became like, and I had this moment where I had caught this old hippie sneaking in. There's like a dust storm, and he just decided to make a run for it. And I was like running next to him, like like sort of Mad Max style. Like
Right.
I'm trying to laugh this hippie, and he's running out of energy. And I finally stop him, and we sit down, and he's begging me to let him, and he's like near tears, and he's like a grandfather. And I was just like, what is this work? Like, this was fun, because my thing is like, when I get into one of these worlds, like I want to own it, I want to like be the king. I want to like, I fall in love with this thing. It's like a door opens up and I walk into a portal to a universe where I found my people and I've got superpowers and I want to be part of the magic, I want to work at the Emerald City, But then that magic, when you become a professional, the same kind of true in comedy. Like, the further into the comedy industry you get, the more you go like, ugh, there's ugliness to this that I didn't necessarily see when I was an open micer. I just thought about my dreams. I didn't think about like the grind or whatever.
Well, everything becomes a business at some point,
Totally.
Every young boy dreams of playing in the NBA, and they're the king of the schoolyard and so on and so forth. And then at some point they're in the NBA and now they have to defend China.
Yeah.
And it's like they're sitting there
exactly.
defending China. And it's like, I just started off when I was 14 and I was out in the playground and the dreams were so pure,
right? And they're like, "Don't you think you're a role model to the youth?" You're like, "I was the youth. I just wanted to get out and make a living."
Yeah, I mean, sadly, every small craft beer company gets bought by Anheuser-Busch, and then the next thing you know, there's a bunch of rules that come back from the corporate. But started as two dudes with beards and a passion and a barrel.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And at some point, corporate has sent a bunch of shit that mandates, but it can only go that way. Like totally. It has to go that way. I mean, Tailhook was a convention. You know where the name Tailhook comes from?
Wait, isn't Tailhook is that the Air Force thing?
Yeah. Tailhook comes from guys who would land jet planes on aircraft carriers and they'd hook the tail. They're tail hookers, you know what I mean? And that's a pretty
I know a different kind of tail hooker.
Yeah.
The rave.
Yeah. With the glow stick.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's a small group of dudes who have had the experience of landing an F-14 on an aircraft carrier at night. You know what I mean? There's only a handful of those dudes, and they're all in San Diego. So they get together and they go to, I don't know, Tijuana, and they raise a little hell.
Sure.
But before you know it, it's in Las Vegas and there's 2,000 people and they're having this tail hookers convention, and there's set up and there's guys merchandise, and that's what everything turns into.
100%. And that's sort of, in a way, what happened to Burning Man, what's happened to the rave thing, happened to every world that I've lived in, other than, the worlds that are more kind of like close to my core, the deafness and the Judaism and the stand-up. Stand-up is, because I put so much time into the comedy world, it's like there's no option of like leaving.
Right.
I'm here, and so I have to find like this way to alchemize the changing feeling that I have in those worlds into something that feels more permanent. But Burning Man, it definitely has that feeling of like a thing that is riding on its own fumes of magic, but it's had so much magic to begin with that I actually still think it's a worthwhile endeavor. I think it's still worth going to. It's definitely still the wildest time I have all year, for sure.
Yeah. Harlan Williams said the same. He's tomorrow's guest, and he went.
Oh,
Harlan is Burning Man.
He is
His
Burning
mind.
Man.
He doesn't need to go to Burning Man.
all right. So I have a funny conversation with Mike August, who books. He does the shows. He travels. He does everything. But Mike August is one of these guys who says things that probably may not have happened or be true.
Sure.
And then he focuses, then he doubles down on it. And I go through my life. I have a conversation with Dr. Drew 3 times a week where I go, what is up with everyone? Just go, I don't know. We've had this conversation here a million times, a million people. Just go, I don't know, or let me check. Don't go, here's what. Because now I'm at your mercy when you do the here's what. So Mike books all the travel stuff, or he's involved with the travel stuff. So we're going out, and this is last weekend, and it's a little hectic. It's Vegas, it's Colorado, it's another part of Colorado, it's flights, and it's times, and it's shows, and everything else. So it starts off with me saying, we're leaving Denver at like 8:45 in the morning or 9 in the morning or whatever, and where are we landing? Because we're leaving Burbank, which is close to where we are. And he goes, we're leaving Denver and we land in LAX. And I go, oh man, LAX. Huh. So you're going to meet me here, and then we're going to leave out of Burbank, but we're landing at LAX.
Yeah, and for those listening that don't know LAX, in terms of human suffering, I would say it goes war,
That's right.
famine, landing in LAX.
That's right.
And then after that, it would be like abuse from your family.
A feminine comedian, male comedian, firefighter, and then,
The most desirable lover on earth is definitely a private plane out of Burbank. Yeah.
Yeah, so LAX is a big hassle, not only in general, but now our cars are here in Burbank. So now I'm going through the machinations. I'm going, well, we can't do what we normally do, which is we just leave here and we drive to Burbank and we valet the car. And then we just land and pick up the car and we're done.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the easiest. That's the easiest.
Yeah.
But now there will be no valet. So I'm like, okay, we're going to have to Uber from here to Burbank, and then we're going to have to go back to LAX, and then we're going to have to Uber back here, because this is where the cars would be. If we
Oh, yeah, and
Ubered
you're missing
the
you're missing a step too, which is that LAX no longer. You have to do like a hike, like a sort of a movement of people, kind of a refugee march from the terminal to
have to
the
use
Uber.
that coyote guy to get you into the Uber corral.
That's right.
We're going to be stowaways in his custom van.
Or you just run like that old hippie as fast as you can through a dust storm to get there.
Right. So a lot of callbacks in this show.
I like it.
So I'm walking through my neighborhood, and I'm like, God damn it, LAX. And then I have this thought, which is the thought I have all the time, which is, wait a minute, there's no flights from Denver to Burbank? I feel like Southwest just goes back and forth to Denver and Burbank like all day. And it's like, and Mike chimes in, not without a couple of layovers. You know, you have to stop in Dallas, or you have to go to Portland or something. And I'm like, God damn
worth it. Yeah.
But there's got to be something. So then I hang up and I call Emmy in the next room, who makes all the travel arrangements, and I go, listen, man, LAX, we got to figure out a way to avoid LAX. Find something that goes from Denver to Burbank. And he goes, I'm away, I'm driving, I'm away from my computer, whatever, but when I get home, I'll figure it out. So then I have so much angst that I get home and I start looking on the computer. And I find a Jet Suite X flight.
Those are great.
And it goes Denver to Burbank. And it's like 10 in the morning. And I call Mike. And I go, Mike, this is going to work. We could go Jet Suite X, Denver to Burbank, Sunday morning at 10 in the morning. Perfect. And he goes, Jet Suite X doesn't fly out of Denver, flies out of Boulder or whatever. It says Denver, but it's not the Denver airport. It's the Boulder airport. And we got to drop the rental car off at Denver airport. So now we're going to drop the rental car off Sunday morning. How are we getting back to Boulder then? And I'm like, I go, okay, listen, scrub the rental car. Maybe we land in Denver on Saturday and we take an Uber to the hotel, to the performance where I'm performing, which is, and it's where they
Grand
filmed The
Junction,
Shining,
SS Park,
right? And then Mike goes, I'm from Denver, you would have to hire a mountain car. Like it's an hour and a half drive. It's a mountain like limousine.
Oh, he's making up vehicles in real time. It's like,
And
oh no,
he
you
goes,
gotta
need
get
a
on the
mountain
Matador.
car. He goes, you're gonna need a mountain car, and it's gonna be $200 like each way. And I'm like, oh, God, okay. How much is the rental car then? If the rental car is $400, and we should scrap the rental car, get the mountain car, see if there's such a thing as an Uber from the Denver airport all the way up the mountain to the resort where I'm playing, Saturday night. And let's get on all of this stuff. And Emmy, figure it out. I need a flight back to Burbank. And about 2 hours later, I get an email from Emmy, and he goes, "Oh, you guys are going into Burbank. You've always been going into Burbank. We made the tickets. We got the tickets 2 months ago." And then I go,
LAX was never.
Interesting. Never.
Wow.
And then I called Mike and I said, and Mike replied to the email. Good news. It's great. It's great. See? And then
You mean I was wrong?
Yeah, that wasn't involved.
No.
So then I said, Mike, listen to me. I just went on a 2-hour angst-filled fucking odyssey about all the machinations of not getting to LAX or how we get from LAX. I became a travel agent. And he goes, hey, I didn't have the itinerary in front of me. I go, okay, but don't say anything, Mike. Say, I'll check. Yeah, well, I didn't have the itinerary. I go, yeah, I know. I'm not blaming. You can say, I don't know, and then we'll call Emmy, and he'll go, yeah, you guys are going into Burbank. But you said LAX, and then we went on a journey. That included Emmy, who thought it was LAX too, because he made the tickets 2 months ago, and I told him, we're landing at LAX. Now it's me with the dis and misinformation. So it's fine. Mike keeps moving. No apologies. No gut check time.
You have lost a few days off your life because of this ordeal.
Then when I'm driving in, the other day I go driving in and I go, so then I go, okay, what's the rest of the trip? And he goes, well, we leave Vegas at 10:30 in the morning.
We got to have a desert car for that. Definitely going to have to.
Yeah, half track, like one of Hitler's cars.
Oh yeah, it's one of the Nazi motorcycles, and you're in the little sidecar. You got your goggles on. That actually is something I would pay to see.
So
same.
He goes, we're leaving at 10:30, and I go, oh man, what? We're leaving out of Terminal 1, and I go, man, they got the Centurion Lounge there. I can get into the Centurion Lounge. It's awesome. You go in.
Coke.
It's got all the food and
I've been there. They have Coke there.
Cocaine?
Yeah, they have cocaine and prostitutes. It's a great lounge.
Great. Only the Vegas one.
That's
the
right.
Utah one.
Right.
Not as much.
Well, you pray in that one to forgive you for what happened in the Vegas lounge.
I go, oh man, open bar, tons of food. That's awesome. But I will be doing a second show in Vegas, and we're not going to get back to the hotel till 12:30 at night. So, I mean, we're going to kind of set our alarm to get to that lounge at 9:30 in the morning or whatever. It's probably worth it, but I'm going over all the machinations of that. I'll go, all right, we'll just get up early, we'll check out early, we'll get to the whatever. So then I'm talking to him a few days later, and I go, okay. He goes, the travel times line up perfectly. I go, really? He goes, yeah, we're leaving Vegas at noon, and we'll be able to hang out in that lounge. I said, Mike, you said 10:30. He goes, yeah, I didn't have the itinerary in front of me. I go, but Mike, then don't say anything. This is a day later.
I like this. This is like, it's scheduled jazz.
Then he gets, that's right.
Yeah, he's like, hey, maybe we're leaving at this time.
It really is. It's schedule, freeform, jazz riffing. He's
Beautiful.
jamming.
You're trying to squelch his artistic process, actually.
You're right. So then he goes, I didn't have. I go, Mike, don't say anything. Just go, I'll check the schedule. He goes, you ask me a question, I give you an answer. That's literally what he said. I said, yeah, Mike, but not the wrong answer. You asked.
That's actually
you asked the question. Now, I like when Mike digs in. Mm-hmm. You've seen it. We've all seen it. He's wrong.
It's beautiful.
And he's digging in now, which is.
It's like a metaphor for our modern time, though, actually. It's like that, give me an answer. Yeah, I don't need any information to have an answer.
You're right.
I just turn on the front-facing camera on my iPhone, and I just start talking. Information is not needed. It's just talking.
I know. So then I repeat once again to Mike or to anyone who will listen to me anytime, please just say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me check. Or I feel like it could be this, but I don't rightly know. So let me double check or find the itinerary. It's written down somewhere. It's somewhere. I don't have it because we haven't got the itinerary worked out yet. And it's my fault because I always just say to people, I ask them and they give me an answer and then it's completely wrong and they have no problems with it. And then I go, don't do that anymore. And they go, okay. And then they just roll right into the next day.
Right, it's like that quote. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. They could update it to be insanity is asking Mike for a scheduling question and expecting good information.
At some point, it comes back to me.
Yeah, Mike cannot answer these questions for you.
Why do you do this? And I go, this happens to me all the time. I go, I told somebody something, they didn't do it, and then they go, well, you should have sent an email, so you made sure. And I go, I know, but at a certain point, you have to be able to just say to someone, do this, or what about that? And then you communicate, and then you have an answer. Or society completely breaks down. If I have to hire a stenographer and a guy with a current newspaper so we can get the date down and then record you and explain that you're under oath and say to you like 26 times, are you sure? Then we have no more society.
Yeah, well, I think AI is the answer to what you're questioning. You need to make a friend with AI.
AI August.
AI August could give you much better information than Mike August. I can tell you that right now.
Well, that was interesting. Now, it's funny, when the answer ends up being what you want it to be, all is forgiven.
Yeah.
Which is weird. It's like
when you heard Burbank, you were like, I love you, Mike.
Yeah, and when I heard noon and me for another hour in the Centurion Lounge, I was like, I love you, bro. And it's like if you're ever searching frantically for your wallet or your keys or something, and you're just fucking turning the house over and looking through the sofa cushions like a stowaway for Burning Man,
yes,
and going down to your car and like tracing your steps and stuff, and then at some point, your roommate or your wife or something goes, oh, yeah, I took your keys and I just set a sombrero on top of it. I got them, and they hold them out. You go, God, oh, my keys.
Oh, yeah,
like you're so fucking happy to have your shit back or the way you want it. You don't have much ire for the person that fucked your shit up.
Right. Plus, if it's under a sombrero, it's kind of delightful, too. You know,
yeah.
It's kind of a fun fiesta. You put the sombrero on, you grab your keys, you shake them a little bit.
So, let's see. Natasha Leggero, your wife.
She is.
Who I know pretty well, actually, from
What's it sound like when you bite her?
It's faint because she's such a small person. It was all over TMZ that she took her top off while performing at the Improv the other week. And I guess people go, well, a lot of husbands would have thoughts about that.
Well, nobody asked me. TMZ called her and said, how did you feel about what you did? Where was TMZ asking me how I felt about what she did?
That's what I'm saying.
To be honest with you,
I think we should tease this. I think we should take a break. I think we should tease the answer and maybe even do some news in the next break. Moshe's got an out, so we'll be respectful of that. But I think we should.
I got a call with a certain kind of attorney pretty soon.
Really?
We'll talk about it when we come back from the break.
Tease on a tease, and we'll be right back in 2 and 2. Morgan & Morgan, it's 2024, so let's talk about something important. If you get hurt this year, your injury could be worth millions. If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Over 100 offices nationwide and more than 1,000 lawyers. More than $20 billion recovered for 500,000 plus clients. Morgan & Morgan has a proven track record of fighting to get you full and fair compensation. They've been fighting for the people for over 35 years. Look, racing my vintage cars, that can be hard, or at least I make it look hard. Submitting an injury claim with Morgan & Morgan, why, that's easy. Morgan & Morgan, right, Dawson?
If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/Adam or dial #law, #529 from your cell phone. That's forthepeople.com/Adam or #law, #529 from your cell. This is a paid advertisement.
But I did get into a small fight with a hippie recently. I was just explaining to her my theory that part of the process of becoming an adult is admitting to yourself that the Doors were a shitty band. She got super mad at me. This hippie girl was like, don't you say that about Jim Morrison. He's like a god to me. I visited his grave. I was like, first of all, strange thing to say out loud in front of people with opinions, but also not even a true story. That's not a true story because Jim Morrison doesn't have a grave anymore because of people like her. He used to be buried in this famous Parisian cemetery where tons of French luminaries were buried and Oscar Wilde and stuff, but so many annoying hippies went to his grave on pilgrimage to like leave an armpit hair offering that they exhumed his body and moved it to an undisclosed location, to a place where a hippie could never find it, like a shower. Underneath a stack of job applications.
Moshe Kasher is on the Adam Carolla Show.
Yeah, I've been to his grave.
Have you really?
Yeah, I was in Paris. I went to the catacombs, which aren't that far. tunnels filled
Love
with
the
skulls,
catacombs. Yeah,
and
that's a cool place.
And you go through there, and then the graveyard's not too far. So we made the pilgrimage. And I agree with you on the Doors. I mean, they're really interesting band, and they did some really interesting stuff. But you don't have to worship at the altar.
I haven't heard that joke in so long. That is the first joke that I ever got hate mail for in my career, because that was very early on in my career that was televised, and I had people writing and it was at the time when I was so vulnerable as a comedian. I thought like this could destroy me if one letter to my agent, he could stop working with me. Mm-hmm. And this woman goes, I love the Doors. I listened to them all through the '60s, and I will never go to another Moshe Kasher show. I'm like, how many have you been to? It doesn't seem possible that the Venn diagram. But no, I like the Doors. It's just a joke, guys.
So, divorce attorney?
Divorce attorney, yeah, I was furious. I was fucking pissed. I said, those are mine, and in the marriage contract, I own them titties. No, I'll be honest with you. The worlds that I inhabited...
Were you there?
I was not there. I was
Probably
not.
Good. Right?
Yeah, I mean, listen... Burning Man, Raves, my upbringing in the Bay Area, raised by a hippie mother. I mean, I don't care at all. I thought it was cool. I thought it was like kind of punk rock. I thought it was a kind of like a. She's like I was impressed. To me, what I saw was like a person that was having fun on stage, and I think like that's to me that's the secret sauce of stand up is when you can be 20 years into it and still make a wild decision in the moment to like just throw caution to the wind and bust your titties out.
Supportive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to do a headlining set soon. Where I bend over, pull my pants down, and the glow stick begins to. Just another callback for the listeners.
Yeah, I think you got to pull out one nut for your next show, just because turnabout is fair play.
Yeah.
And we'll see how she feels about the one nut.
No, there was no part of me that was like, I mean, I'm just not like that. I think nudity doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, I think it's like I was impressed. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, again, your upbringing, where you were brought up geographically, the Raves and certainly the Burning Mans, you've seen enough.
I saw nude American Sign Language reinterpretations in modern dance to Cyndi Lauper's True Colors my entire childhood. You know, I mean, fire dancers and hot tub hippies. It's all grist for the mill to me.
Yeah, nothing phases you anymore.
Well, some things definitely faze me. If I had a friend like Mike, I would be very upset. I'm just saying things like nudity and stuff. I just feel like everybody's so uptight about everything, and nothing matters. I sort of feel like we're at the point, and you're saying society's going to fall apart. It's fallen, and so I'm like, fuck it. Like, who cares about anything? Have fun.
Can you, when you see sign language people,
sign language people?
I mean, interpreters.
Yeah,
sign language. Yeah, they cropped up strong during COVID because every governor and every mayor was given a speech, and there's a person next to them.
Yeah.
Are you picking it apart? Are you reading it?
Oh, absolutely.
Are you finding fault in it?
Oh, you would be astounded at how bad some of the interpreters on that level of importance.
This is where I'm going.
Yeah. You would be astounded how bad some of them are. I mean, like unintelligible bad. And I'm not talking about like the Nelson Mandela lady where she was like a hustler and a con artist and was just doing another interpretation of True Colors. I'm talking about real sign language interpreters that you look at and you go, no one watching this could possibly know there's a hurricane coming into town.
Right. I mean, you're fluent.
I am fluent.
And this is not. I mean, look, I used to be a carpenter. I walk into people's houses all the time. They go, look, it's just beautiful remodel. I go, this is shit.
Yeah.
Because I have the
Your
eye
child is
for
going to be under a 2x4 soon.
Yes.
Yeah. I see that 100%. It's so frustrating. It was so frustrating because I not only, on a sincere note, I mean, it's funny on one level, but on a sincere note, I also spent my life, my young life especially, in a meeting that would be high stakes and watching the interpreter tell my mother something and watch my mother not be able to understand like life or death information that was being translated to her. When
Moshe's gay.
Yeah.
It's like she's the counselor.
She's like, I know. But
wait, find my bit. I have a sign language bit that just broke out spontaneously, and I'm curious for you to hear it.
I'd love to hear it.
But yes.
One more thing is when I was young, before the Americans with Disabilities Act passed, or maybe it passed, but they just weren't taking it seriously, there would often not be an interpreter at all for meetings with my mother. And I was, as every child that has deaf parents, I was tasked with the duty of interpreting for my mother, for my mother's appointments. And then when I started to get in trouble, I would start to be tasked with the job of interpreting for my mother's appointments that were about me.
Oh.
Gone were the days, the salad days of yore, where it was like the fun stuff, just interpreting for her gynecological appointments. Now, I had to interpret about what a piece of shit I was.
Right.
And you have to do this kind of creative thing when you're doing that, because you don't want to give over really how big of a piece of shit you are, but you also can't be like, we think he's great, because you'd be like, well, why'd you call me here today? So you have to do a kind of an interpretive, like, he's not great, but he really does show potential, and we like him a lot, but we also think...
Now, Mike did that to me today. He goes, oh, I said we were maybe leaving around 10:30. I was like, Mike, you just said 10:30. You can't fluff. You can't pat it with both sides. Yeah, I love when people go back and sort of soft sell. Like, I said we might be leaving somewhere in the neighborhood at 10:30. It's like, nope, you just said 10:30. Cool, right? That's all.
Do you know how sign language began?
Oh, I have a question for you before this.
Yes.
I had this argument with Dr. Drew. Mm-hmm. So you may hate him even more than you do
I don't hate him. I have no feelings.
Well, that's not a way to feel about Dr.
No, I mean, I know. I like Dr. Drew. I like him. I like him.
No feelings.
All right. Zero. Dead.
No,
dead
I didn't mean it like that.
All right. So Dr. Drew was pissed off during all COVID because they run the closed caption thing. And I was same thing too. Like, just run. It's just a caption. Read what the Governor Newsom is saying. Why is the chick with the black turtleneck have to be there?
Oh, so they're having captions and they're having a sign language interpreter.
No, they have a sign language interpreter, but you can hit the caption on your TV.
So why the interpreter if you can have
and it was
captions?
explained to me that American Sign is its own language.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm like, I kind of but on the other hand, it's just the words of what's coming out of the governor's mouth, and she's flawed, as we figured out.
Yeah, sure.
So why is my taxpayer dollars going to her when you can just read what's on the bottom, scrolling on the bottom of the set?
Well, it's a hustle and a scam, and it's one that I respect. And because I get paid about 5% for every time you see one of those interpreters. 5%. So no, I can explain.
Explain.
I can explain this to you in a way that I think will make you sympathetic to it. I have heard the analogy in a book called Seeing Voices, Oliver Sacks' book. I think I might have gotten the name wrong. That when a deaf person learns English without sign, it's like teaching you Japanese from inside of a soundproof booth by just showing you flashcards of Japanese characters, right? So that process of English acquisition is impossible. It's impossible. And so what happens is that sign language, American Sign Language, is not a translation of English, as you said. It's its own language with its own system. And a lot of deaf people, for better or for worse, are not competent, are not sufficient in English reading skills to get this important information. And the American Sign Language, a lot of deaf people are. A lot of deaf people are bilingual. They know English super well and they know American Sign Language super well. But that interpreter is not there for the person who could read the caption and get all the information that they need. That interpreter is there for the person who, for whatever reason, maybe they weren't raised in a good school system. Maybe they're an immigrant, so they didn't learn English at all when they got here, and then they're deaf and they learn sign language when they get here. It's for the person who needs that information that could not get it through the captions. It would be Greek to them. I respect that. But that person needs to get their shit together. I don't want to have, at some point, you got to read a book, bro. All right. So I'll play you this Oh yeah, I want to hear this.
Now, so the origins of this bit is I was at Wise Guys, I don't know where it was, and I was backstage and someone said to me, there's a sign language person
Yeah.
out there, and I was like, oh, I should do something.
Let me torture this professional.
Yeah, but and tell me if you think it's feasible.
Okay,
It would
okay.
work. All right. Do a little experiment here. Because he's got to say everything I say. Oh, sorry, there's a pole blocking us, but she has to say everything. Well, okay, first things first. This whole COVID thing has made these sign language guys think they're superstars, right? Every motherfucking press conference I've seen in the last 2 years, there's some dickwad with a black turtleneck, his mouth is moving, his hands are flying around. And there's a theme with these assholes because they cannot express themselves through the majesty of dress like I do, like I'm a peppy dresser. People know I've arrived. You can't sit there dressed like Prince in some kind of paisley cardigan or something and do sign language. They all have to wear black turtleneck sweaters. So they express themselves through having crazy fucking hair and weird beards, and then they sit there next to Gavin Newsom or Como, and they're just like piling away. But anyway, back to the experiment. Yeah, that's not the bit, but we'll get to the bit. Why don't we do this? I'm gonna break off from doing the sign for the show that Adam Carolla is doing right now. He's just a bloated has-been. I see him on Tucker Carlson talking shit all day. Fuck this guy. If we had somebody in here, like if Janine Garofalo or Patton Oswalt was on stage, I'd sign my ass off. But I totally disagree with that Carolla. I hate his fucking politics. His takes on COVID got people killed. And I'm not gonna stand here and parrot all of his jokes using my hands. And by the way, the jokes, do you really need to hear them again? Blah, 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 red turn eras, blah, 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 I hate my mom. We get it, we get it. You're an old, washed up sack of shit. But let me direct something toward you. I gotta say, I've never seen a better looking man who is hearing impaired, and I've seen them all. Signing is a very lonely job. I'm out here on an island. I come home to 3 cats that don't care. I long to be held by a man who understands me, a man I can communicate with even if he can't communicate. My apartment is less than 5 minutes from this club. Obviously, I'm a professional, but when the show ends, I let my hair down. And I cease being a sign language interpreter, and I become a woman. You think I can use my hands? Wait till you see what I can do with my mouth. Now I could stand up here for another 51 minutes signing whatever this racist blowhard's yapping out of his fucking soup cooler. Or we could blow this taco stand, get a couple of drinks, and be up in my apartment in the next half hour. What do you say? I know you're parked up front. All right, now, but did she have to do everything I said?
She did, in fact, have to do everything you said. Did you talk to her afterwards?
No.
Oh, and you just beeline for the exit?
I ran.
I mean,
Well, they probably are living happily ever after.
you know
now.
what the thing is? Like, to me, I mean, obviously that was very funny. And you didn't do what I expected you to do, which is just have them sign blowjob 15 times.
Yeah, everyone always cusses. It gets real vulgar and thinks it's funny. And the audience will laugh, but I think find an angle.
Yeah, I wonder if she minded, and if she didn't, I bet she didn't mind. I bet she thought it was funny, and I bet she had it. To me, what I'm looking at there is like a smashing together of two of the universes that I live in. Like that's what this book is about. Really, is this like these worlds that don't belong together, kind of like coming together through me, and like. For me personally, I love it because it's like that's stand-up and that's sign language, and they're kind of mushed together in this way that I love that you made fun of yourself too. I mean, listen, I loved the all the self-effacingness because I did expect you to just say like, "Hey, how do you sign eat pussy?" And so I give it a pass. But I'm not irresponsible. Really, who's responsible is that woman.
That was a Reese's peanut butter cup for you. That was signing and language, sign language and comedy stand up put together.
If there could have been a techno beat behind it somehow, you know, and just an old guy saying we don't drink no matter what, man, my life would have been and a yarmulke. Yeah. My life would have been perfect.
That's the book. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the book.
I know you got an out.
Yeah, I gotta go. I wish I could stay. This is so fun.
You got a couple more minutes?
Yeah, I got a couple more minutes.
You have 5 minutes? We do a news story?
Let's do a news story.
All right, let's do a news story.
All right, yeah. So let's do. There's a lot going on with college mascots right now. Like some Oklahoma University fraternity guys. They try to do a prank where they put a dead longhorn in another frat's lawn. Yeah, they got arrested for
a dead cow.
A dead cow, but
Texas.
They looked into it and they said that the cow had died from disease. They didn't kill the cow, but they were pressed. But and then Georgia, their mascot died. Uga. It's a bulldog.
Oh yeah,
it was a real dog and it died.
Real dog that died. This is the 10th version, Uga X.
Yeah,
and Roman numeral, highly decorated, and
more of a civil rights activist.
Yes, and PETA was really, we're very sensitive to Uga passing away.
I thought you were going to say about the longhorn because I'm like, I don't love PETA's tactics most of the time, but I'm kind of side with PETA over here when you put the
longhorn,
a cow carcass on the lawn of a frat.
Really, they put their sights more on Uga.
Yeah,
Uga, but those bulldogs live 9 years and they're bred into.
That's
they're
what
the
PETA
bred.
saying.
Yeah,
So
they don't
PETA
like
put out a
like
tweet.
the breeding.
Do you know they can't even give birth anymore? Bulldogs?
I didn't know that.
They've manipulated the breed to such a degree that they're all born via C-section because their weird misshapen heads are so big they can't fit through a bulldog vagina.
Yeah, so I feel like, but on the other hand, I feel the same way about people. When I did Loveline, there was a guy and he let his dog have sex with him. And all the women, our producer and phone screener, they're all disgusted.
And you're turned on
by it.
Yeah. Well, you're a man. I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I'm sort of like, look, as a dog, there's a lot of different places you could land. You could be. I'm saying you could be in Tijuana, just wandering the streets with no owner. You know what I mean? As a dog, or you could be in Alaska pulling some lesbian musher, across the frozen whatever. 3 of you are going to die before you get to Nome, Alaska, in the musher sled.
Yeah.
Or you could be banging your owner.
You're saying in the hierarchy of needs, like that dog is actually living his best life?
Yeah, Yeah, I'm saying a feminine stand-up male comedian, then Uga, then dog who bangs owner.
All these points and more are made in my new book.
You are Uga, and you live 3 years. Your life is 3 years shorter than the mutt up the street living in the shit apartment, but you are babied and cared for.
And you're a star.
You're a star,
you're
and you're fed the best, and you're chauffeured around. I mean, you got a dog. You got a life.
Yeah.
You ain't. You're not a prison dog, who's biting people. You're not sniffing out cocaine at the airport.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Uga truly lived.
Truly lived in those short.
Better life than most.
Better my childhood. Better than your childhood.
I would
better than
actually
yours.
venture a guess and say that Uga had a better better life than the dog who was forced to fuck its owner. And in some ways,
Uga had a better life than 96% of humanity on this planet.
Okay,
Right.
fair. Yeah.
All it was starvation and death at birth, and
I think
war and
being
famine, disease.
Being a dog is the best iteration of life because you don't have to deal with the animal kingdom striving for food. You live with God,
Right.
and God pets you and feeds you and says, "I love you." That sounds
that's
good.
right.
Yeah, that sounds real good.
Occasionally you get to bang God. Moshe, I want to give the book a plug. 'Cause,
Oh, yes, please.
I want to be respectful.
I'll also
of
be
your
on
time.
tour, by the way. I'm going on book tour starting next week. I'm going to DC, Austin, New York, Portland, LA, San Francisco. Go to my website and all that. Come see me.
Give me the website.
MosheKasher.com, MosheKasher. And the book's out tomorrow. I'm like so excited. I put so much of my life and soul into this thing. I really am proud of it.
It really looks great.
Thank you.
First book?
My second book.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
You should be proud.
Thank you.
Subculture Vultures, the name of the book, out tomorrow. We'll take ourselves a quick break. Robert Nagle is going to be here, and he's a stunt driver, former race car driver, worked on the Fast and
seen him
Furious,
in
a Ferrari, John Wick, everything. So we'll talk all about that. We'll do that right after this. O'Reilly. Don't miss Do It Right deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts. How long has it been since you've changed your spark plugs? Yeah, that's a good question. Replacing your spark plug can restore efficiency and performance to your vehicle. Get better gas mileage as well. And right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, get a $12 O'Reilly gift card after rebate when you purchase 4 or more select AC Delco Iridium spark plugs. Maintain your performance and fuel mileage with new spark plugs from O'Reilly Auto Parts. You can also improve visibility with their new wiper blades. Right now, save $12 on a pair of Rain-X Rugged XL wiper blades. Plus, get 2 times O Rewards points. An extra large profile and premium features make Rugged XL blades the right choice for extreme weather and driving durability. The professional parts people will even install your new pair of wiper blades for free. From spark plugs to wiper blades and more. Save now with Do It Right deals in store at O'Reilly Auto Parts or O'ReillyAuto.com.
In honor of Jim Carolla's 92nd birthday, here's a list of all the things Adam Carolla will do before he dies. Drive a car off of a pier and onto a garbage barge. Just one of the things Adam will do before he dies. Let's get back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Stunt director and driver, a man who's done the Wick series and Ford v Ferrari and Baby Driver. There's a lot of real driving going on in Baby Driver, Gran Turismo, and of course, latest effort, Ferrari as well. Robert Nagle is here. Good to see you, Robert.
Thanks for having me on.
Lean into that, Mike. Thank you. So you've driven everything, done all the stunts in the movies. I talked to a few guys. Maybe Tanner Faust is a guy
Good old Tanner.
you've worked with.
Yes.
Jeremy Fry, we've talked to him.
Yeah. And Ferrari, it strikes me that Patrick Dempsey is a friend of mine, and he's a real driver.
Yes.
And so do you go get out of the car, or do you go, you know how to drive, so you get to drive the car, or we're not insured for you to drive the car? How's that work?
Michael really wanted him to drive.
Right.
And obviously there's a bit of a vetting process. But he killed it. And he did 90% of his driving. Anything
Right.
he didn't drive is because he wasn't available that day. And
Oh,
I had
okay.
a double step in for him. But there was never a moment where it's like, oh, I don't know, Patrick, this is a bit much. He nailed it. He was incredible.
Yeah, well, he's got a lot of wheel time.
Yeah.
A lot of time, Le Mans. Probably did Le Mans more than once, and
Yeah.
Steam and all that kind of stuff. So you didn't have to worry about him, but the other
No,
guys.
But it was, and the other side of it is, if you don't have somebody that's worked around camera and understand how to find that lens and play that, since he's been an actor, he
Yeah, he's
understands
got 'em
how
both.
to play that.
Yeah, and the cars, I mean, you go, Ford v Ferrari. I went and looked at some of those cars from the
you did?
movie. Yeah, someone was selling a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And they're, I guess you used to call them kit cars, but they're tribute cars or something. I mean, it's like
replicas.
cover band versus tribute band. You know what I mean? It's all semantics, but people don't like the slight of the kit car, but so we'll call them cover cars.
It was a mix. We also had two Superformance GT40s that are licensed copies of the GT40, and they both had 427s in them.
Yeah, so those were authentic.
They were a proper car.
Right. So having to drive, so you get to drive the vintage old stuff, Ferrari movies taking place in the late 50s, mid 50s, right? You get to drive those. Then you get into a GT40 and essentially drive what they were driving back in the day, because even if it's a replica, it's the same.
Yeah, it's still a handful.
Right. Now the Ferraris are like Subaru powered or something like that, because they can't take an actual Ferrari that's worth $46 million and put it out there. Right.
I'm sure, yeah.
But no, actually they were powered by the if you turned them upside down, the chassis and driveline was based off a Caterham 620, which is a supercharged 4-cylinder.
Yeah. All right. So, and do you know when you work with a director, do you work with directors who don't care as much, not as authentic, or just not as car-centric or something versus other guys? And is it even the director? Is it always the stunt coordinator or the second unit guy? Like Michael Mann is super passionate about Ferrari.
Yes.
He's got a Ferrari engine inside of his office. I've been there. So he's into it. So he must have been all over it, right?
Yeah, and every director is a different dynamic and a different relationship. So Michael, yes, being a car guy, it's a more one-on-one conversation of how we accomplish what he's trying to get on camera. Back up to Ford v. Ferrari with James Mangold. Off the bat, he says, I'm not a car guy.
Right.
You guys figure this out, come to me with a plan, and let's do it.
Right.
And so I was able to write all the action scenes for Ford Ferrari and have his blessings on it and changes, and then that's what we photographed.
So do you start by going, well, I got to research Le Mans 1967, 66. So I got to research it. I got to get all the guys' names. I got to get what Ferrari they're driving. I got the right model of GT40, and how many, who broke, who blew up, how many laps were ahead, behind. You just go through the whole chronology of it.
Yeah, so it's step by step, and that sort of gives you a building block for the story of what you want to tell.
Right.
And then you also like, well, should we spice it up a little bit? Should we add a little bit to it? But a lot of it was, if you look at the footage of the original 1966, just the start, there's an interaction with two cars almost wrecked Ken Miles. So we recreated that, and then we added another crash to it to just make it a little more.
Yeah, they do the running start. Everyone jumps in and takes off as fast as they can. No one puts their seatbelt on, and somebody lit up the rear tire, got a little squirrely, and right at the start. I'll tell you what needs to be corrected, and I'm going to fix this because
this is why you're here, Robert. Actually, we're
100%.
Fast and Furious. Which ones did you work on? Because it was driving me nuts. I'll tell you what drives me nuts. You know what drives me nuts in Fast and Furious? They're all on the cargo plane, right? They're ready to launch themselves off the back of the cargo plane, right? Number one. Why not load the cargo plane so that you're facing the opening so that you can drive out of the cargo plane before the parachute? Why is everyone backing?
Right.
It would be unnerving enough to drive out of a plane that was 25,000 feet in the air. It'd be super unnerving to do it backwards. Even Southwest Airlines got rid of that weird backward-facing jump seat thing they used to have back in the 90s. So everyone is backing. They load the plane in. Okay,
so when they drop
back
out of the plane, they go out backwards.
I would say, I think people, first off, you could be backing out and clip the side of the plane. Or back into somebody else who wasn't back. You want to be using your rearview mirror and craning your head around, or can we all just have a clear shot into the opening?
Right.
That's number one.
They weren't thinking ahead.
Number two, every single time it was time to go, and by the way, everyone backed out, like they drop it in reverse and then punch it. You could easily just clip something on the plane, right?
Right.
Nerves are frayed at that point. Every time they do it, they do the close-up of the hand, boom, he drops it, throws it in reverse, and they'll do it going forward, too. They'll go, boom, into drive, then they cut to the feet, 3 pedals. There's a clutch. It's an automatic. You just put it in drive, and then they cut to the feet, and the feet are like bang, bang, bang. But it's like, what do you mean bang, bang? There's no clutch. There's no 3 pedals. It's an automatic car.
Yeah.
There's no clutch. Why are we doing this?
Robert, explain yourself.
Please.
For those Fast series, I worked on 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Those are
the
the prime.
sweetest, primest.
I was just a hired gun for that. But I feel what you're saying 100%.
Were you driving along the ice and everything?
We did some. Actually, I began Baby Driver for that sequence. So I came in later.
Baby Driver was a lot of just...
That's a Subaru, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sort of... Also, wait a minute. They didn't do it in Baby Driver, but the other movie that I hate that works is Drive is where the guy can't catch the other guy. So he goes, I'll throw it in reverse, and then I'll catch him while I pop it in reverse. It's like, your cars don't go faster in reverse. They're geared a little lower, but...
It looked cool.
It looks cool.
It's
Baby
cinematic
Driver
license.
was very tactile. It was like real driving. Like it wasn't the difference between analog and digital. This was analog.
100%.
This was all driving, right? No CGI or effects or whatever, right?
Yeah, that was the whole goal from the beginning when we met with Edgar to start designing the action for that. And we spent a year with him, meeting every month and just kind of spitballing the ideas and sketching out the how that would play out. And really, it was all about being grounded in reality and trying to figure out some stuff that just hadn't been seen before.
What do you have? I mean, everybody's... everyone kind of has their Mount Rushmore of car movies, chase scenes, Steve McQueen and all that kind of stuff. But what do you have? Or what's a movie that is a little under the radar that has some really cool sequences that we may not appreciate?
I mean, obviously, I'm going to say, who doesn't love Bullet? I mean, if you look at the time and the era when that was shot, it was some good stuff.
Yeah.
But that being said, one of my favorite that I've always strived to excel and go past is Ronin. I think the sequences in that are fantastic.
Yeah, with De Niro.
Yes.
Yeah, so you got Ronin as sort of sleeper, doesn't get mentioned in the same breath as some of these movies, but
it doesn't.
should be.
Yeah, because you hear Bullet, you hear French Connection, you hear all the other ones, but rarely does somebody say Ronin. I mean, there were some really great pieces in there.
What's the hairiest stunt? I think that someone's phone may be going off. What's a hairy stunt that you've seen? Like, for instance, in I'm trying to think. All right, I'll think of the movie. It's the Burt Reynolds, Jan Michael Vincent stunt movie.
Oh,
Hooper,
yes.
come on. You should have been on that. And Hooper,
Trying to.
they launched a rocket car like over a broken bridge. Now, I don't know if anyone was in it, and I don't know how it worked.
Way before my time, but
That would have been a pretty hairy stunt to be.
What
Also in Hooper, they found some old industrial town in outside of Flint, Michigan or whatever. And they blew up the town.
Yeah,
right.
it's practical.
But part of blowing up the town is they had all these old brick smokestacks, that went 150 feet in the air. And they blew them, and they drove under them.
No,
and it's like, that ain't CGI. That ain't nothing. That's just a dude holding a Coors with like a button. Like, we're going to try to blow this thing, and we're going to try to time it so the smokestack comes down, but you got to get under it. But we only have one smokestack, so we don't want you to get under it too easily. But it would be nice if it was coming down and you just made it under it. And it's like...
And he does.
That's pretty hairy.
I mean, you got one chance.
Yes.
And there's that shot where you look at it, you think it's going to hit the car. It's that tight.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And then they did, then there's original Gone in 60 Seconds.
I like the original.
Yeah. And then the crazy guy who made it, I think, died later on. Trying to do
sort of a sordid pass there.
Something else. But there was also a lot of like running and gunning, like the original Gone in 60 Seconds. Not like they pulled permits and like blocked off the streets or anything. They just went for it.
Yeah, guerrilla style.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, seriously, guerrilla style.
I don't know. I mean, even when you watch Bullet, you go, well, they pulled a permit, but they're still at a bunch of there's city streets and cars parked on them and stuff like that. Like it wasn't that.
It wasn't
contained.
super controlled. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I kind of miss those days, right?
Kind of fun.
Yeah, but you also get kind of killed, right?
There are consequences sometimes.
I'm sure.
Where is that? Find that smokestack. It's got. We've seen it. It's on the internet from Hooper.
It's a great shot.
What are some of the sequences that you've worked on that people would know the best?
That's a tough. I mean, all the stuff from Baby Driver was so detailed in how we planned all that, and especially since we utilized a rig that I helped design, which is the Biscuit Rig. So when we're inside the car with the actors, we're doing the same stunt with this rig that you see in the wide shot. So when we cut to the interior of the car and they're being thrown around, it's because it's real.
Right. What is the Biscuit Rig?
So the Biscuit Rig, myself and Alan Padalford designed this thing. It's basically a drivable platform that'll do 150 miles an hour. We can put a car or a car buck on it, put the actors in, put cameras anywhere you want, and then the drive pod is movable, meaning if they're looking forward, we can move it to the back. So now you can look forward. And
do you have a picture? We got to see a picture of this rig.
Biscuit
so is
rig,
it sort of? I remember I was talking to Tanner Faust, and he was talking about doing Red Dawn Part 2 or something, and he was just sitting in the back.
Did we do that sometimes too?
Driving from the back of the car in a cage in the back, which sounds preposterous to me, but it's a way to get the actors in the car and actually get their reaction, which is organic, which is freaking the fuck out, right?
Which, I mean, if you want to go back to that, Ford versus Ferrari, when Tracy Letts, who's playing Henry Ford, goes for a ride with Matt Damon.
Oh, right.
In the
Great
GT
scene.
Ford.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was on the Biscuit Rig as well. I drove that sequence.
Well, that's
cool.
what you should have brought up.
Well, we're getting there.
Yeah.
We didn't tell Tracy we were going to throw a 180.
Oh,
So the first take, it startles him.
That is a great
I love that piece
of filmmaking. His he's got stuff dripping out of his nose. He's crying. He's sniveling like that, and it's such a pivotal part of the movie.
Maybe my favorite scene in that movie.
Yeah. Yeah,
I would
but
agree.
in that particular case, it's like the Biscuit Rig was the actor as well, because it got the reaction from the actor. We have the smokestack. It's 22 seconds. Let's see if we can appreciate this. They're literally just blowing up a town.
Yeah. People are
it's-
running,
and go.
Explosions everywhere.
Everyone's just driving in there.
Cars catching on fire.
There's one smokestack, but there's the other smokestack, which is this one.
Amazing. This is like those things like we only have one shot at this, guys, so we have to do it right.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's not like you get to rehearse that.
No, and they're driving on a wet, dirt kind of road where if you give too much gas input, you're just going to spin the rear tires and you can't really stop.
Pretty much worst case scenario.
Oh, God.
And you have to commit. You have to commit.
No, it's crazy. You guys should watch it online. So I want to see what the Biscuit Rig looks like. So the Biscuit Rig is you putting the car on the rig.
Yes.
And then you driving the rig while the actors are in the car.
Let the actors act.
Right. Let them act. Is it, pardon me for besmirching the Biscuit Rig, but couldn't we figure out a way to get Matt Damon just to, drop the clutch and chirp the gears and,
here's the problem with that. You still have to photograph it.
Right.
So you got to hang cameras on it, batteries.
Right.
And by the time you're done, there we go. That's from Ford Ferrari that was the Willow Springs race with Christian Bale.
Right.
By the time you have all that stuff on there, the car doesn't respond or you can't see. It just creates so many more problems.
I see.
This is a super controllable environment.
Yeah.
This won the Academy Award too, the Biscuit Rig, right?
Yeah. It won an Academy Award for that.
What Academy Award did it win?
Engineering and technical achievement.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's okay. So it's a rig, and it's looks like it's completely bespoke and fabricated.
Right.
Like someone
You can buy the tires.
You can buy the tires. Everything else. And its power plant is a what? Because it's got to have some big time displacement.
The one you see it's as big as you can make an LS. It's naturally aspirated, about 650 horsepower. It's over 500 foot-pounds of torque at 2,500.
And the displacement is?
I want to say 460 cubic inches.
Okay, so as big as you can make
I mean,
427. Yeah. And because you're going to need, that thing's got to weigh a lot.
It's not as much as you'd think.
You make it out of steel?
It's all steel, but it's engineered from the ground up. Mm-hmm. So that's a pod type car.
Mm-hmm. And so you put the car in sort of the cradle. The car's not too high off the ground. The car itself sits only 8 or 10 inches probably.
And that was part of the design, is to get the car back to ride height. Because a lot of times, you'll see it on TV all the time. They got cameras looking at the actor, and you're like, they're like 10 feet in the air.
Right. Yeah. So that works. I'll tell you the problem with Ford v Ferrari. When they went to Willow Springs and they had Christian Bale, and he's out there running the Cobra against Bondurant, the other guys, they're going the wrong direction on the track.
We're going the right way.
No, you guys went the wrong way. You went the wrong direction on the track.
You want to put money on it?
Maybe you've been going the wrong direction.
It goes clockwise.
You do?
Yeah.
Well, out on the road you do, but when you went past the finish line, the start-finish, you're going the wrong way.
Nope.
All right, we got to find it.
So we did a couple hinky things. One was, at the end, when they finished the race, we did a U-turn back into the pit lane, which was going counter course. That might be what you're thinking of.
That's at the end of the race, you're going the wrong way. Yeah, when you're on the road course.
Correct.
You were driving the road course.
But it was just for storytelling to connect Ken to his child.
Storytelling, still going the wrong way
I know,
for the end of the race.
I got to pick my battles, Adam. I got to pick my battles.
Yeah, but the race, definitely, I've done a few. Actually, I did a Trans Am. I did a Trans Am 1 race there in a C7R vat that
fast track.
Probably would have liked. That track was... It's 2.5 miles.
2.5, yeah.
2.5. And the guy who was on the pole did like a 118 and a half.
That's quick.
Or something.
That's quick. Fastest I've been is 124.
Yeah, that is hauling ass. Your average speed is fast.
It was
on that.
well over 100. I mean, I think a minute 30 is around 100 miles an hour average.
Yeah, it was. I'll try to figure out who did it. Anyway, came in third through a stroke of God.
Nice.
Like I signed up for a professional Trans Am race. Then I'd never been in a Trans Am car.
That's awesome.
And I never even sat in it before. And there's Trans Am 1, Trans Am 2, and Trans Am 3. Trans Am 3 is almost stock, high-performance cars, but the tires are a little thinner and the horsepower is down a little. It's almost a street car that's been modified. Trans Am 2 is faster, but Trans Am 1 is just a tube frame, balls out,
full
950 horsepower, crazy machine. And I get someone's asked me if I want to do it 4 months out. And I'm like, yeah, sign me up. I've never even driven on the big track at Willow.
Oh, you've never even been on the track?
I don't like that track. I don't like that big turn 8, the big sweeper.
You just got to hold the throttle down.
That's what they said. But I was like, yeah, sign me up. I'll be there. And then I showed up, and it's like whole semi-trucks and techs and 950 horsepower and a cage and Corvette. I've never driven a Corvette. I drove Datsun 510 vintage cars.
It's a great little car.
You know what I mean? And sequential shifting and stuff. And I just showed up, and I was like, whoa, what is this? I was like, there you go. Got to get in there. And I'm like, wow. And then they go, you got a radio in your helmet? I go, no. I raced in vintage racing where there are no radios in the helmet. And they're like, oh, all right, well, look for us. We'll do it.
Wave
whatever.
To you.
It's 100 miles. So get on in. And the tires are going to go after about 60 laps. I think it was a 100-lap race. No, it was a 40-lap race. Sorry.
That sounds right.
It was a 40-lap race.
That's
and they said after about 30 laps, the tires are going to get super gummy and deal with it. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And it was I came in third. I got on the podium. It was crazy.
That's impressive.
I spun the car out with cold tires on like a warm-up lap and everything, and it was crazy. And basically all I was doing is following the guys who were in front of me. And I was just doing what they did. And that's how I figured it out.
Well done.
It was crazy. But like modern cars are just easier to drive than the older stuff. Like
Yes, they're different, but yes.
I have a rocket-powered Trans. Oh, I have the rocket-powered Trans Am jump as well. Now, I don't know if anyone was in this car.
I don't think so. I could find out, but I don't
You
think
would.
so.
You got your sources.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well,
I could get the real story.
I'll just. This is Jan Michael Vincent. God rest his soul. This is Burt Reynolds. God rest his soul.
Love Burt.
At the height of their dude 70s
Right.
powers, the height of Hal Needham. Fuck this. By the way, Hollywood was much different back
Yes.
then. It was dudes who like fought and drank and backhanded women and smoked, and there was no sensitivity. And it's we're worried about the people in Gaza, and my pronouns are no pussies in Hollywood back then. Everyone just drank, smoked, and beat up women, and it was fine. That's how it worked. Now listen, I'm not saying that's a good thing.
Right.
I'm saying we've gone too far the other. So we should have stopped about 1991. Now we have, all these pussies crying about the indigenous whatever, and they're talking about global warming. We've gone too fucking far. We should have stopped 91, 89, 91. If we just stopped.
That's the sweet spot right there.
That's the sweet spot. Yeah. All right, here they go.
Price you put on it when you got behind this wheel.
Sonny, Ski, if you do not try to make this jump, you will never work in this town again. Is that...
We're going, huh?
We're going, yeah, we're going.
You're crazy.
I got a rocket car. But I think it's like a water rocket. They take a rocket car. They jump it over a bridge. They land. It's a different shot when they landed.
Right.
But was there somebody in there?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Now Amy can look it up so we can figure it out. Yeah, you're right. Ford v. Ferrari went the right direction on the track, and then just at the very end. How is it working with all this? How much actor time do you get in when you're doing that kind of stuff?
It depends. I spent a substantial amount of time training Christian Bale.
Mm-hmm.
And we wound up taking him out to Bob Bondurant School when he was still alive. And for me, it was sort of twofold. I obviously want to teach him to drive, but Bob was such an icon from that era. Mm-hmm. And his information I thought would be invaluable. What surprised me, and we spent a week out there, is he was very close friends with Ken Miles. Bondurant was.
Yeah.
So there was a wealth of information that Christian was able to get from Bob, and just conversations about Ken. It was fantastic. And we went there like end of July, so it was blazing fucking balls.
It's in Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they got bought by somebody.
It did.
Yeah. Keep going.
So we'd start at 7 in the morning and go until 2 in the afternoon. And by then, you could fry an egg on the asphalt.
Yeah, too hot. Especially if you're driving a Cobra. Which
I
don't know you were doing, but
it was just basic building blocks to learn, starting from A to B and just going up.
Yeah, because Christian Bale had to drive a convertible Cobra around, and so there was going to be shots where he had to be driving the car, right?
But he's in the Biscuit Rig
the whole time.
The majority of it.
Really?
When we see his face, he's in the Biscuit Rig.
Oh, except for the end one where you're going the wrong direction.
Yes. He's driving. You're not gonna let that one go.
I can't.
That's why Christian Bale can look 90 degrees for
That's right.
10 seconds.
But I got to tell you, we finished the week off in Formula Mazdas, and my test oftentimes is start pressuring them.
Open wheel little car.
Yeah, a winged open wheel, slicks, really fast car.
Yeah.
And I kept hounding him, and I got closer and closer, and I'd pop out and try and distract him, and he never bobbled once.
Really?
It was amazing.
Concentration.
Yeah.
Did the Biscuit Rig, you rent it out now? How's it work? Are there people trying to knock it off? Did you get it did you get it trademarked or patented or whatever?
We didn't patent it because then I have to tell you how we did it. So it's left to people to try and figure out.
But is it rented out for other films? And
Yes.
that's a good.
Yeah, there's three versions of it.
Had to be 150 grand, a couple $100,000 to build that thing. 300 grand.
More.
It was. I mean, with all the engineering that went into it and the labor, it's 200-300.
Yeah, it's a lot of fabrication going on. But that's good because the last they had a version. There is a Porsche Cayenne or something that's like a high performance Porsche that has the big boom.
Yeah, we have those too
on top of it. And it's nice that in 2020 something we're still in the business of cars and actual racing and capturing it and not in the full CGI universe.
Yes.
It's nice. It's nice that the car chase just still exists and it probably exists more so than it did 20 years ago.
Yeah, and you sort of touched on the whole CG thing. And for me, my selling point has always been the subject matter needs to be real. We can play around with the peripheral. So using the Biscuit Rig or other devices similar, now you can have the actors in the middle of the action.
Right.
And it keeps you in the story. Because oftentimes when you don't do it that way, there's that moment that takes you out of the story. And you can't always point to what's wrong, but you know something's wrong.
Do you the Biscuit Rig? I would much prefer to be in that C7R vet with the cage and the 950 horsepower than sitting in the Biscuit Rig car. I would feel more vulnerable.
Oh, you're talking about as in the picture car.
Yeah, the picture car.
It's a little unnerving.
I would say
if you're used to being in control, it's a little unnerving.
I would also say they must run into some actors or some talent and just go, I don't want to get into the picture car on the Biscuit Rig.
Knock
you know what
on
I mean?
wood, it hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened yet.
But we also ease them into it oftentimes. We don't just go out there and run 10 tenths.
Right. And they're going to know, they'll... you take it easy and you sort of build it up.
With Christian, we didn't have to. He was ready to just, let's go.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
All right.
In Ferrari, I know you worked with Nick Mason. One of his cars, right?
Yes,
we had one of the
Maseratis. We had two Maseratis, and one was from his stable.
From Pink Floyd, the drummer from Pink
Floyd.
Yeah, so they actually used one of Nick Mason's vehicles.
And I'm sorry, in which movie?
Ferrari.
Oh, Ferrari. Yeah, I was thinking because I was thinking Maserati and I was thinking Le Mans. I was going, But in the 50s, there would have been some of those. Yeah, God, that guy's got a collection.
He does.
Did he show up?
He did not. His guys came out, and I watched his car compete. He's driven by Marino Franchetti.
Great
Monaco.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love him.
Yeah,
and
his
they run
brother
these things.
Dario's pretty cool dude too.
I haven't had a chance to meet him, but yeah, I'm sure.
The Franchetti brothers are fantastic.
They are.
They're just sweethearts. I don't know what it is.
Just good people.
They're good people. That's a good way to discuss them. And one of them's married. Was married to.
One of them's married to Nick Mason's daughter.
Marino is. Yeah.
Oh, okay. One of them. God damn it! Why didn't I marry? Fucking Nick Mason's daughter. Jesus Christ. Could have been in that GTO.
I'm bummed she's off the market too, man.
No. She was married to a Judd. I think. One of the Marino brothers. Wait. Dario. There's Dario Franchetti was married to a Judd.
To Ashley Judd.
Judd.
Okay.
Yeah. They're probably divorced now because he's too nice and she's too nutty. And that's never going to last.
Timeline's correct, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let me give a plug. Ferrari, the movie, it's out on VOD. And hold on. Practical effects. Are you sitting down? Buddy Joe Hooker made the 325-foot jump, setting a record for rocket-assisted stunts.
I could see him doing
Is that farther than Vin Diesel jumping from building to building in Dubai?
Huh?
Yeah, that's a real thing. Now, Buddy Joe was probably driving. I don't think Vin was driving.
No.
But see, that's the whole point. Driving your Dodge Challenger down a dam is just all CGI. And once it becomes that, then the answer is sort of, then let's do anything. Let's put a Fiero.
Which they have done.
To send a Fiero to the moon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is a guy named Buddy Joe Hooker. That's the greatest stunt driving name ever. Sat in that car and launched it 25 feet. All right. Robert, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
That was fun. And again, Ferrari is the name of the movie. It's available on VOD as we speak. I'm going to be in Naples, Florida, Off the Hook Comedy Club this Friday and Saturday for 4 shows. So you can come on out and say hi to that. Say hi to me. Moshe Kasher's got book. Subculture Vulture is out. Until next time, it's Adam for Robert and Moshe and Chris saying mahalo.